up, YouTube? So today I want to talk about my musical history, how I got into it. But before I do that, slap the like on this video. If you enjoy it, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notifications every time I upload. Hope you enjoy this video, and as always, there's more to come. So let's get into this. So ever since I was little, growing up, I've always been awakened by old school music. The Temptations, Barry White, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, who's one of my favorites, Gladys Knight. Yes, I got me a little list here. It's too many. It's really too many to remember. Otis Redding, Sam Cooke, Al Green, Michael Jackson, Prince, Mr. Luther Vandross, lots. Patti LaBelle, Anita Baker, a lot of people. And I'm sure I'm going to forget people, the OJs. It's just way too many to remember. Mr. Barry White, Diana Ross. Even though I wasn't always a Diana Ross fan, but I do give her credit that she has a beautiful voice for real. For her to still be living and looking as good as she does, that's amazing. Tina Turner is one of the other ones too. But I remember vividly on the weekends, especially on the weekends, waking up to old school music and always thinking to myself, damn, why they don't play something else? But, over time, you get accustomed to it, When I was young, I really wasn't a big fan. Once I got older, I really appreciated the more I understood music and the more I started doing my own music. It just got better for me. So when I first started trying to write music, and I started with hip hop, because I can't sing. My mom can sing. I can't sing for nothing. I can't sing. I can sing to God, but I can't sing. But I started trying to write rhymes at 9. Unfortunately, I couldn't spell some of the words that I was trying to say. And no, they wasn't cuss words. They were just normal words that I just couldn't spell at the time. So I gave up out of frustration. And then like in 94, 95, while I was staying with my dad, one of my cousins that stayed there during that time, RIP to Raphael White, he came over to my house and he used to freestyle all the time. He loved UGK. He loved South music. He was a big fan of the Memphis area at the time. He said, man, today you gonna rap with me. And I'm like, man, what? So we started out freestyling and everything, and he was better than me. He freestyled all the time. And I started writing, and back then, when you start writing and you like a teenager, you use very simple rhyming words. I used a lot of 4-letter words, and not all of them was good. And then the next year, I ended up coming back to Florida, or moving to Florida. And my best friend Jonathan and my other best friend Jay, they was doing music. At the time, Jay was way more into music than me and Jonathan was. He actually had a couple record deals that he could have signed. He chose not to do it. He chose to go to college and do another form of expression. He writes books. He also has done photography. He made a movie while we was in high school. It was really interesting. But in high school, me, Jonathan, and Jay, and a couple of our friends, we had a little group, and we made a couple tracks, here and there. And I used to go back and forth between Florida and Mississippi, so I used to rap with them, and I also rap with some other people. And as I got better, because at that time Jonathan was better than me, and Raphael was better than me, I really wasn't focused on who was the best. I was more focused on since I felt like once I got this platform, I wanted to say something that was going to be important, or at least make people understand where you're coming from. So I based all my subject matter, just like my YouTube subjects, about life. Sometimes we don't always like what we hear. Sometimes we love what we hear. But one of the major problems with music now, because I just made a mixtape called Rise, pretty much I made that because I got tired of hearing what's on the radio. I don't listen to the radio, but when I was listening to the radio, they play the same song 12 times an hour, and the radio used to break artists. You know what I'm saying? Like back in the day, and sometimes at night, most times at night, especially on the weekends, you have to like catch it at the late night show. But they used to play hip hop back in those days. You know what I'm saying? You remember being back in the day and waiting for your favorite song to come on, and you had your tape recorder right there ready to record. Yeah, I know. I'm dating myself, but it is what it is. So pretty much while I was starting out rapping, I couldn't make music. You know, I wasn't a musician. I didn't know about scales. I didn't know about timing. I didn't know any of that stuff. I just knew how to write and say something to a rhythm to make it sound appealing. So what I used to do was I used to go to the store and buy singles, because back in those days they used to sell singles in the stores, and on the singles, as a part of the single, they used to put the instrumentals. So I used to use those instrumentals and make raps all the time. And I used to beg my brother for beats. You know, I got a brother that has his own studio. He's been rapping longer than I have, named MJF Entertainment or Supreme Studios or MJB Bad. You can look him up on YouTube. You can also look him up on Facebook. But I used to beg him for beats, and I used to beg other people for beats. And pretty much it got to a point where he was working with other people. He also had his personal life. He was working with other artists. He also was making his own music, and a lot of the music didn't always come to me. It went to other places or it got lost in translation, just like with other producers. They said they would do it and then nothing. So after a while, I said to myself, when I get my opportunity to make music, I'm gonna hit the ground running. Because all I did back in those days was just write. I had I'm sure I went through about 10 rap names. Eminem was one of them. Mass Murderer. That's just funny. Mass Murderer. Eventually it came down to The Shadow, thanks to Jonathan. You remember that. But I don't know, I'm contemplating on changing it to just LJ. Let me know what you think. Maybe I should change it to LJ. I'm thinking about that. But it's Shadow right now. So I made it to Florida after graduating college, and one day our other best friend Ryan, he came to me and said, "L, man, there's a studio in Tarpon called 420 Studios. Shout out to Matt Gello." He was like, "You can go up there and make your music." So I went to the studio. I got the tour by Mello, RP Mello. I think his name was Mello. Matt told me the prices and everything. I saw how the studio ran. I saw the feel. I liked the feel of the studio. I liked how big it was. I liked how professional enough that it was that I can come in there and do my thing. So I made it a point to be like, all right, time is money. I won't write in the studio, but when I get here, I'm going to do what I got to do. So from 2006, I want to say 6, to like 2013, before Matt closed the studio down, I was off running, making music. And at the beginning, I was still using instrumentals. So happened, a roommate of mine was able to download Acid. And if anybody know Acid, unless you read the manual, Acid is not a very easy program to use. I tried about 2 months to use Acid, and I could not get that thing to work. I couldn't make it make a sound. I couldn't do nothing. So I got frustrated and told my roommate, and somehow he found a copy of Fruity Loops. Back then, they would call it Fruity Loops. Now it's FL Studios. Excuse me. FL Studios. And I started using FL Studios, and on the first day, I made a beat. It didn't sound worth nothing because, I was just starting out. I made a beat, though. And I decided right then that I'm going to be a better musician. I have to get my musical skills up to my lyrical skills. So what I did was I went and used the method of 10,000 hours for practicing anything that, makes you a genius, expert on the subject or whatever. So I went to YouTube and looked up all the tutorials I can find. I also was going to other studios where people was working on music live, so I used to sit and just watch them and pick up techniques here and there, and ask questions to learn how to do this and how to do that. And as I started getting better with music and started to understand music better and started to really evolve into a better musician, my music really changed. I decided to take the Will Smith route with cutting down on the cussing because I feel like I want my music for everybody to be able to hear it, and that means it can't have cussing in it. If it's cussing, it has to be a point behind it for me. Not everybody else, but for me. And so I started writing rhymes and changing the way I write and changing the subject matter that I talk about and everything. And the last CD I did, it was called Champion Content. Unfortunately, the studio shut down before I could continue it, so it kind of just got left at where it was. But before that, I was off to the races. Like, I was making music all the time, and pretty much it got to a point where I got very comfortable in what I was saying and how I was coming to the studio and how I was approaching music and everything. And now the music that I make to me, is different from other people because I speak on life, life subjects. I speak from an everyday person, but sometimes I try to speak from different point of views and angles. And along the way, my musical way, as I had the MPC, I also had a drum machine. I can't even remember the name of it. Had a drum machine that had a lot of knobs, like an oscillator. That was okay, that was okay for beginning. And then I was lucky enough to get an MPC. But I got the MPC 500. And the problem with the MPC 500 is there's companies that make sounds for the MPC, but the MPC 500 is almost like, it's like the black sheep because it's small and portable. And now I'm sure they got something smaller than that. I think I saw something on their cow site a couple months ago, something smaller than that. But don't make the format for the MPC 500 sounds, so you don't really have a lot of those. So what I was doing was I used to go to the websites and buy or sign up just to get the sample packs or whatever, and then whenever they drop a sample pack, it comes to your email, you get to listen to it and you get to download the little sample pack and take some of the sounds. And what I was doing was I started putting them in FL Studios. As I started doing that, I let my brother know, because I went back up there with a CD one time called The Will to Survive. And he told me from then, he said, from this day forward, now that you have the MPC, you can't make no more bullshit music. Excuse my language, but you can't make no more BS. It has to be, it can't be bull. The level of equipment you have now demands more of you as a musician. So I took that in mind. I started looking at a lot of MPC video tutorials. I knew quite a few people that had the MPC around me that I used to watch. And as I started to understand the MPC, I really do like the MPC. Honestly, if you have an MPC, you really shouldn't have nothing else. I mean, you really don't need anything else. It can plug into the computer. You can hook it up to a keyboard. You can hook it up to a drum machine. You can hook guitars in it. You can hook a lot of. It's like the central equipment. We hook a lot of different pieces of equipment up to it. And also, one of the best things about it that I got from it that I love is the fact that it has a sampler on it. Because when I sample music, it's always something different. It's never usually the same music. Like, it's hard to catch what I sample sometimes. And sometimes I don't have a sample and people don't always know that. But the music that I make now is usually different, but it's good, to me, it's refreshing, So anyway, I was making I was in a couple of difficult times. I had stopped making music for about 5 years. Not too long ago. Pretty much it was like so many people that I knew, like family and friends, that passed away, and it really just like messed up my whole inspiration. It's hard to be positive when people is passing away and the way they dying, or knowing something crazy happening, or hearing about crazy stories all the time. So that kind of messed me up for a while. Now I got my inspiration back. My inspiration has returned, thanks to Almighty, and back to making music. I'm thinking about making a new CD. Not sure what I'm going to talk about or what the subject matter going to be. I know it's going to be something based on life. But I was thinking about using some old school music and sampling it and turning it into something new. And I had that idea for a while. I also had an idea of making a whole bunch of like slow beats and rapping over those, something like Pillow Talk, but I changed my mind. That came and went a long time ago. But right now, all the music that you guys hear in these videos is my music. The reason why is because you can't use everything, all the music that you want to. And YouTube has a list of free music, but there's also music that you can't touch. Can't touch the Elvises of the world because people get sued. People are very money hungry. So I use my music more than anything in these backgrounds. So the stuff that y'all hearing is usually my music. And I have so many instrumentals that's like right here on this keyboard, on this desktop that I'm not even using right now. I'm looking at it. A lot of music on this. Got a lot of music on my MPC. Yeah, I still got music on the MPC, even though I haven't used it in a while. I also have music on my other laptop, my phone, just for future purposes. Also, anybody want to buy something from me, come hit me up. But I wanted to give you guys a look into my life and look into the music, my musical history and how I started. Now, it's crazy because at first I didn't understand why I was so into music and all that stuff, because I couldn't sing. Back in the 80s, 90s, it wasn't really about hip hop like that until hip hop started catching on fire in the late 80s and early 90s. Back then, you had to be, if you want to do music, you had to be a musician or you had to be a vocalist, and most vocalists are people who sing. I wasn't blessed with that. My mom, on the other hand, my mom could sing, but she didn't pass that along to any of us. So, really crazy. But for the most part, I would like to thank you for listening to my story. Also, if you like this video, give a thumbs up. Like it, subscribe. There's more to come. And have a nice day. Yo, peace.